one of the games I get asked about a lot because people assume that I have like super secret inside knowledge is Assassin's Creed codenamed Hexe. And this is because I cover a lot of Assassin's Creed stuff. I work with Ubisoft on different projects, and I know people over there. So people are always like, oh, do you have any cool information? I don't. This game is still a good ways off. I don't have any cool information, but other people do. So there's been an article posted by the one and only Tom Henderson over on Insider Gaming, and he's doing some reporting on Assassin's Creed codename Hexe. And this is the game that's coming after Assassin's Creed Red, probably in the 2026 timeframe. So we get Red this year in 2024, and then this won't come out for another 2 years after that. So there's some more information. Prior to this article, there was some information out, not a ton, but Rhino the Bouncer put some of this together. If you don't follow Rhino, does a bunch of coverage of different things, especially like, PS5, Assassin's Creed Tomb Raider stuff. But these were rumors and leaks related to this. And most of this I have all heard about, so none of this is that shocking. Some of it I can provide a little bit more specificity on, but in general, this is a collection of statements made by Ubisoft executives or developers over time. So they've said it's the darkest Assassin's Creed game ever. That's true. Basically, this is a game that's expected to be set in Central Europe in the 16th century, focusing on the pivotal point in history revolving around mass hysteria about witchcraft that gripped the continent, leading to witch trials where 80,000 people were executed, according to Bloomberg and Tom Henderson. And this is something that we pretty much know for a fact, that Hexe is set during this time period in this location, and it's expected to be very dark and gritty. And it's also expected to be a little less, it's not going to be the same open world RPG that you might be accustomed to recently. It's expected to be much more linear than anything else. So beyond this, it's expected to have a female lead and protagonist, not a dual protagonist. It's expected to be a single female character named Elsa, who will let it go. I couldn't think of any other jokes or puns about Frozen, so that's it. Anyway, so it's expected to have one female protagonist. That's it. Expected to be coming in 2026 now. 2025 was not that seriously on the table as far as I'm aware. I think it was always around 2026, but 2025 was kind of the hopeful point. This was posted back in March, by the way, but I think it's been 2026 for a while. They have confirmed it. Yeah, they dropped a little sort of trailer, teaser, whatever thing. They've called it very different upcoming flagship Assassin's Creed title, according to Marc-Alexis Cote, which is one of the head honchos over at Ubisoft involved with it. And they've also said, Yara Tabara has said that it quote, features strong feminine energy. I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, as a female protagonist is concerned, I would imagine it's primarily because like this is set in a period of time when women were being rounded up and burned at the stake as witches, and you're going to be playing as a female who, according to some things we're about to talk about, most likely is going to have some supernatural abilities. So chances are the player character is going to be accused of being a witch at one point, and you're going to see and hear some stuff that is probably pretty intense. So I'm sure thematically it's going to be about, fighting the patriarchy that's trying to burn you at the stake, which honestly, of all the patriarchies to fight, that's probably the most fair. Yeah, they're actually trying to burn you at the stake. What was it in Monty Python? It's like you weigh the two, and if the witch weighs more than a duck, she's a witch. I think that's what it was. It's been a minute since I watched Monty Python, but I think that's what it was. It's been a minute. She turned me into a newt. I got better. But yeah, I mean, that's something that they've described. I don't really know what that means, but we can only speculate. As for this, written by franchise veteran narrative director Darby McDevitt, who's behind some of the best written games in the franchise. And if you don't know Darby McDevitt has worked on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Unity as a co-writer, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 2 Discovery, Assassin's Creed Bloodline, The Sims 2 on the DS, Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I didn't actually know this. Oh, that's cool. Dude, I loved this movie growing up. I loved it. I mean, this is the game, the 2005 game, but I freaking loved the movie back when it launched. The Herbs, Sims in the City, Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. So, like, worked on a lot. Won Best Narrative for Valhalla in 2021 from the Canadian Game Awards. Won for Black Flag in 2013 for Best Writing. So, Valhalla, I will agree, the individual stories, there were some really good individual stories in Valhalla. My problem was that there were way too many. They were paced poorly, and it was just generally a game about quantity over quality, I think, which in the context of their broader strategy, I understand why they did it that way, because they basically weren't going to have an Assassin's Creed game for years, so they wanted a game that would sort of stand the test of time and have enough content to keep people engaged. But I just didn't like how it was paced out and everything. But the writing itself was good. So, I mean, I think Darby deserves some credit for that. And to hear that Darby is returning to work on this project is also very encouraging, because that's something that's good. To have talent from previous entries, including like Black Flag, returning to this is encouraging. Developed by Ubisoft Montreal, the franchise's main studio since 2007. In case you're not too familiar with Ubisoft Montreal is the iconic studio with the big brick building you've probably seen in all like their promotional stuff. It's actually called the Peck Building. That was, it housed the John W. Peck Shirt and Clothing Factory. And in 1997, it became Ubisoft headquarters, or Montreal headquarters, which is just kind of fun. But it's a massive, massive studio, more than 4,000 employees. Massive studio. And they've done a lot of work. I mean, they've done, of course, Roller Champions. Ooh, baby. They've worked on Assassin's Creed. They've worked on For Honor. They've worked on Far Cry, Prince of Persia, Rainbow Six. Like, this studio touches everything. So don't think of Ubisoft Montreal as like one team. It's a massive company headquarters basically in Montreal that houses a bunch of smaller teams that work on these games. The largest of which is working on Assassin's Creed stuff. But this is the team specifically that did like Valhalla. They also worked on Black Flag and those games. So beyond this, they go on, it's designed to leave a lasting mark on the franchise. Again, don't really know what that means. I think they'd probably say that about every one of their releases, so that doesn't mean much to me. One of the first two games to launch on Assassin's Creed Infinity platform, the other being Red. It's true, so that's going to be the second release there. Launching after Mirage, which we know at this point. Themes revolve around witchcraft, based on the name Hex, or Hexe, meaning witch in German, derived from Old German Hagazusa. And then he also, Reno, offers some personal speculation. Game may likely involve alchemy, and science confuses magic, plus a fabled philosopher's stone, which may potentially be technology of the first civilization, a prominent ancient faction in the game. Judging by Yara Tabaro's statement, the game will likely feature the series' first solo female protagonist in a mainline game, which at this point is pretty much confirmed. The specific writing and reporting from Tom, the one and only Tom Henderson, who you guys might recognize. Tom has done a ton of reporting. Tom comes around to stream every once in a while and hangs out. So Tom is an OG and is somebody that doesn't just make stuff up. He reports stuff that, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much always confirmed to be true. I can't think of a time when he's reported on something that's been demonstrated to be false. So time and time again, the reporting ends up being accurate. Brandon, she's going to be a witch who gets recruited by the Brotherhood. She's going to be the most powerful assassin, blah, blah, blah. I bet her mom will be the bad guy, calling it now. Dude, that's actually a pretty safe bet. Yeah, no, that actually is a safe bet. Or maybe she'll be like an orphan, and then she'll have like an adopted mother figure, kind of like what's her name in Mirage. The lady that sounds like she swallowed a bunch of gravel. I can't remember her name right now. Played like Anna in or Anna, whatever it is, in Overwatch. I can never remember. Anyway, yeah, that's very, very possible. Details on Assassin's Creed Hexe are few and far between. Officially, there's the series vice president and executive producer, Marc-Alexis Cote, alluding that the game will be different from past entries and developed by Ubisoft Montreal. From the game's official tease, we know that it will lean heavily into witchcraft, with the game rumored to be set in Central Europe during the 16th century Holy Roman Empire. Insider Gaming understands that the game is still in a relatively early stage of development and is expected to be released in 2026 on the Infinity platform. Hexe is understood to be a more linear experience compared to its predecessor, with some elements of open world exploration somewhat akin to the earlier Assassin's Creed games. As already reported by Insider Gaming, Hexe is poised to have a single female protagonist currently named Elsa, who has some supernatural abilities. Oh baby. Probably granted from like Isu powers. She touches an apple of Eden or something and like all of a sudden can do your taxes in 3 minutes instead of a month. I don't know. She'll probably have some sort of supernatural ability, but it's going to lean, I have no doubt, more in the fantasy side of things, which honestly would be a little funny if like the whole thing is, look how bad this like patriarchal society is for burning women at the stake, thinking they're witches. And then she comes along and it is like unironically a witch that has magical abilities. That would be a little funny. I wonder if the irony is lost on them, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see. While details on all of her abilities are unclear, footage sent to Insider Gaming under the condition that it not go public shows off one of those abilities. In the footage, Elsa is seemingly being hunted by 16th century German soldiers. Image of what the soldiers look like can be found here. And this is like your standard floofy, I don't know how else to describe them, floofy, colorful, medieval Renaissance soldiers. So she's being chased by those people, and she uses a spell to possess a nearby cat. The player then controls the cat and uses it to distract the soldiers by knocking over a glass bottle, which smashes on the ground and diverts the soldiers' attention. The gameplay provided to Insider Gaming depicts a dark and gloomy setting in the cobbled streets of the city, which setting wise, I love it. It's a cool concept also to be able to possess a cat. I would imagine it's a black cat, and then walk in front of soldiers, freak them out, and then knock something over to distract them. That's super, super cool. It's not really Assassin's Creed related, but you know, it could still be cool. My stance at this point, everybody's like, they should just not even call it Assassin's Creed at this point. It has nothing to do with Assassin's Creed other than like really like we're stretching, you know, narrative tie-ins. My stance is just that, like, I understand why they're still calling it Assassin's Creed. When you put the AC label on something, it's gonna sell better than when it's not on the box. I get it. So at this point, it's just kind of like understood that, yeah, this is very, very different from what we used to do, but just like smile and nod and put up with it. Ubisoft's goal is to now have a bunch of different games that release with all different themes and stuff. They'll have co-op games. They'll let the team that did Mirage do another old school Assassin's Creed game. So they're going to give you those fixes, but the key thing I think to understand as an Assassin's Creed fan is that not every game is being catered to you. Some of the stuff they're going to do, like they're going to do a co-op game and they're going to do like a big multiplayer game eventually. Those games are probably not going to appeal to me. I won't be that interested in them, but they're not trying to. And on the one hand, that can be frustrating, but also I appreciate them not trying to make every annual release catered to absolutely everybody in a way that makes it just totally unremarkable in everything that it does. So I'm hopeful that them focusing on smaller groups of players and specializing a little bit more will lead to better games, but time will tell, I think. Hasn't Magic been around the whole series? Oh, yeah, but it's like, it's always framed around this like Isu technology where it's like, it is magical, but it's also not. It's supposed to be part of like the first civilization's capability. Like, it's messy, but like straight up just casting spells is something that is not really a mainstay of the series. I mean, granted, like there's a basically magical spear in Odyssey. There's a lot of sort of magical, straight up fantasy stuff in there. So it's something you just kind of turn your brain off to. I know some hardcore fans will be upset about it, but a lot of other people are just like, whatever. Yeah, Pieces of Eden. Disco Cobra, gee whiz Willikers, thank you for the $50 super chat. My goodness. I thought that Ninja Assassin's Creed was next to be released. It is. So that's coming out this year. This is not coming out till 2026. I'm not really into AC games, only played AC2, never went further. How about these or those Gears of War rumors, possibly God of War Gears of War 6 announced at an event in June. I'm hoping for a collection of the OG games. Yeah, it's at this point, I think it's pretty much locked in that we will see something from the Coalition. It times out well. We know they're working on stuff. Multiple insiders have said that they expect to see them there. So I fully expect that. I don't have any direct knowledge of that. I don't know for a fact if we're seeing that, but I would put a good chunk of change on it happening. It just makes too much sense at this point. And the fact that insiders that have very good track records are saying that it's going to happen, I think says it's probably going to happen. Beyond this, sources have also outlined that the plan is to have a fear system in the game inspired by the Assassin's Creed Syndicate Jack the Ripper DLC. While the exact details of the system are unknown, it isn't difficult to see how this system, or at least a version of it, can be easily implemented into Hexe. The 16th century witch trials saw up to 80,000 suspected witches executed between 1500 and 1660, so some form of fear system makes sense for the setting. And basically, I mean, they include this clip here, but like, look at this. So they have this pause so we can pull it up. You see Jack's, in case you never played the DLC, Jack's terror over London is based on his use of fear. One of Jack's fear tools is the brutal takedown. Performing a brutal takedown to its bitter end will frighten any opponent witnessing it. Hold X in the same conditions as a classic assassination to start a brutal takedown. Follow the instructions to complete it. And then they do a little demonstration of it. So you can do this and do the brutal takedown. It causes fear to rise in the city. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. It's a little bit of overkill. Enemies react to the Ripper's terror in 3 states: calm, anxious, or frightened. So 3 different states. Fear actions make enemies anxious and then frightened. You can affect an enemy's fear state with fear tools such as the death scream or spikes. So if they're using a system like this, what it could be is basically like if you're playing as the protagonist and the people in the city fear that you could be a witch, you could use different tools and stuff to make them freak out and behave more irrationally, thinking you are a witch, either by using straight up magic or by using some sort of tool to trick them into thinking you're a witch. And that could lead to some more interesting encounters where you could use that to your advantage. It's a cool concept, very different, very unique, where it's almost like a slight alteration of your typical notoriety system in a game where you commit crimes and stuff and it causes the police to become more aware and alert and watch out for you. But this time it would be behaviors specifically that could be upsetting or induce fear in people that you could use to kind of work that tally up. So it's a cool concept. It's a cool concept. And at its core, it's just different. I fully expect this is a game that people are going to probably see and go like, well, what's this have to do with Assassin's Creed? I get it. But that doesn't, again, mean that it's necessarily a bad game. It just might be a bad Assassin's Creed game related to old school things. But I mean, I've been saying that this was going to be a problem since Mirage came out, because Mirage was like this old school game that was taking inspiration from old school Assassin's Creed games. And the people that liked those games really liked Mirage, thought it was pretty good and had a good time with it. But I said from the moment we got it, when we get the next Assassin's Creed games that go back to like the open world thing and the RPG stuff, and then this, which is going to be more of a linear horror adventure game, each time it releases, people are going to be like, wow, they've lost their way since Mirage. Mirage was so much better. Just totally unaware that they're going to do another Mirage-like game. They're just not trying to appeal to everybody at the same time, which is kind of the important thing to remember. They say, while these are early details on the game, it's not hard to see why Marc-Alexis Cote described the title as, quote, a different type of game to IGN in late 2022. He continued, quote, not everything has to be a 150-hour RPG, right? To bring more diversity to the places we choose to visit and to how we choose to represent those periods. And it basically just seems like Ubisoft has realized they don't have to do Valhalla for every single location they visit. Players can still buy games and enjoy games if they're a little bit smaller in scope, if they're not trying to be the biggest, craziest thing ever. And for me, I'm glad to hear that. You know, I think we've kind of come off of a trend where every studio was trying to do the 100-hour game and every studio was trying to give you the most bang for your buck for your dollar, and players just got burnt out and also like stopped buying games because they were too big. And in order to create those bigger games, studios spent more money developing them. And so they spent more money, people started buying them less, and so now they're going to just swing the opposite way. So I fully expect the meta for the next like 5 years is probably going to be a lot of smaller yet still full priced games that are probably like 10 to 15 hours, maybe 10 to 20 hours. And I think that's going to return as sort of the the meta for a lot of these bigger companies. Probably high production value stuff, but I don't think we're going to see a ton of like big 50, 60, 70 hour RPGs dropping all the time. They're just too expensive to make nowadays. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, Hexe seems to be, at the very least, a very different type of game than what they're currently doing. They're not trying to do a big open world with it, which I can appreciate. They're not trying to do a big RPG with it, which I can appreciate. They're trying to do something a little bit more lean and mean and a little bit darker. And time will tell how it pans out, if it actually ends up being something compelling. But at the very least, they're trying to do something different, which is refreshing to me, at the very least. Whether it ends up being good is another question, but at least they're trying to do something different. He took my thing.